Well, remember the Africa Rising mantra a few years ago when we were told that the continent had several of the fastest growing economies in the world? Well, in many cases, that growth failed to trickle down to ordinary citizens. So what impact will this reported growth have? I'm joined now by Mphoeng, a finance expert and director of Spectrum Analytics. Mphoeng, how unexpected, first, is this growth forecast for Africa during this time of COVID?
Well, hi, Peter. I think it's Africa, considering that Africa contracted by 3.7% in 2020, which was the largest we've recorded on record. It isn't really that much of a surprise that the growth forecasts we're seeing are about 3%, as countries are recovering from lockdowns and learning to work around the challenges. The drop in growth in 2020 was really driven by countries that were dependent on travel and tourism, and even things like exported commodities, and we're starting to see those industries coming back in this coming year.
Oh, I see. That's very interesting. So you say it's some of these countries that were really impacted by COVID-19 that have brought down the growth rate for last year. So without vaccines, though, as Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala pointed out there, what's the prospect for the continent in 2021?
Well, I think I agree with her statement, sort of saying that for the whole world to recover, we're going to need all the players back on the pitch. And until most of us are vaccinated, global trade will remain muted and will not get back to gear as much as we had hoped. But what we should see, and as we've been seeing in Africa, all those vaccines are starting to slowly roll out, and we're hoping that the COVAX and the EU and the AU, with all the work that they're doing, that we should be able to see a lot of economies start to open up in the third and fourth quarter. So those growth prospects are probably pretty good.
But it's interesting you say that some of the governments will be beginning to open up their market spaces, but we see a country like Kenya, one of the largest economies on the continent, now shutting itself again. Another lockdown, a third wave of the COVID-19 pandemic predicted in that country. Are African countries really prepared to open their markets again?
Unfortunately, because we don't have our own research capacity and production for the vaccines, we will always lag behind the developing countries and the developed countries. And I think it's been obvious, not just in Africa, but across the world, that we almost work in waves of that happen every 2 to 3 months. So it is almost to be expected until the whole continent and every country is really vaccinated to a sufficient level. So I don't think it's really anything to worry about. The good thing is we've already learned from previous lockdowns on how to try to maintain and keep the economy moving during those times.
And we really like to narrow these discussions down to the ordinary man. Mphoeng, if you were the owner of a small business or a household on the continent, how would you be preparing yourself, first of all, to maximize any profit that you could make once the markets are opened again, and in fact, just generally, for the reopening of these markets?
What we've seen in the past year was almost a lot of small business being forced to become innovative. And, we've had to see what I call informal e-commerce sort of starting to play a larger role, where a lot of small businesses are being forced to use social media such as Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. But what they've been doing very well is that they're also able to leverage of mobile payments. So you're seeing a lot of trading that happens sort of what you would call online, but in informal sort of settings. And then you're starting to see delivery. So we're seeing a lot of that. We've also seen a lot of individuals starting to get involved in what in Botswana we call side hustles, where people are starting to find other streams of income that try to support whatever income they're currently making in a bid to try to create resilience in the household and in businesses.
Mphoeng, very good insight into this important story. Thank you very much. You're speaking to me there from Gaborone in Botswana. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.